Hello, sports fans. Welcome back to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's deep dive into a night at the Australian Open that left the tennis world wide-eyed, speechless, and scrambling for explanations. What unfolded on Rod Laver Arena was not the tight, high-octane battle many expected. Instead, it became a startling display of control, clarity, and composure from Elina Svitolina, who swept aside Coco Gauff with shocking ease to march into the semifinals and reignite serious Grand Slam dreams. From the moment the players walked onto the court, the contrast was compelling. On one side stood Coco Gauff, the American third seed, brimming with youth, athleticism, and the weight of expectation from fans who believed this could be her moment to dominate Melbourne. On the other stood Elina Svitolina, a seasoned campaigner at 31, calm, measured, and carrying the quiet confidence of someone who has weathered the highest highs and lowest lows of professional tennis. Few could have predicted just how decisively experience would triumph over youth. The match began under a closed roof, with conditions designed for fast, clean tennis. Almost immediately, it became clear that Svitolina had arrived with an exceptionally sharp mindset. Her footwork was precise, her shot selection disciplined, and her defensive skills razor-sharp. She absorbed Gauff's early power and turned defense into offense with remarkable efficiency, forcing the American into extended rallies she clearly did not want. Gauff's serve, which had shown signs of instability earlier in the tournament, unraveled quickly. The first set turned into a nightmare as she struggled to find her rhythm, spraying errors and leaking double faults at the worst possible moments. Svitolina, by contrast, remained ice-cold. She returned serve deep and consistently, pinning Gauff behind the baseline and stripping away any chance of dictating play. Break after break followed, each one chipping away at Gauff's confidence. Although Svitolina briefly allowed her opponent a way back by dropping serve herself, the lapse was short-lived. Gauff's inability to stabilize her service games proved fatal. Each time she faced pressure, the mistakes multiplied, and Svitolina pounced without hesitation. Within half an hour, the opening set was gone. The scoreboard told a brutal story, 6-1. The speed at which it unfolded stunned the crowd, many of whom were still settling into their seats when the set was effectively over. Gauff's body language spoke volumes. She looked frustrated, confused, and increasingly tense, while Svitolina looked as if she were playing on instinct, every decision clear and calculated. In a bid to reset, Gauff changed rackets, consulted her box, and eventually left the court for a brief break. It was a moment of reflection, an attempt to regroup mentally and emotionally after an opening set that offered little to cling to. Yet when play resumed, the script refused to change. Svitolina broke serve immediately to begin the second set, extending a run of dominance that now felt overwhelming. The Ukrainian moved with relentless intensity, tracking down balls that should have been winners and sending them back with interest. Her ability to redirect pace frustrated Gauff, who found herself pressing harder, swinging bigger, and missing more often. Though Gauff finally managed to hold serve, the relief was fleeting. The damage had already been done. Svitolina never loosened her grip on the match, continuing to dictate the tempo and keep rallies firmly on her terms. The American's first serve percentage remained low, and her confidence never recovered. With each passing game, the inevitability of the result became clearer. In under an hour, it was over. A 6-1, 6-2 scoreline that barely captured how lopsided the contest truly was. The handshake at the net was brief and respectful, but the contrast in emotion was unmistakable. For Svitolina, it was a moment of quiet triumph. For Gauff, a harsh lesson delivered on one of the sport's biggest stages. This victory carried enormous significance for Svitolina. It marked her first time reaching the Australian Open semifinals, a milestone that had eluded her despite several deep runs in Melbourne over the years. This was her 14th appearance in a Grand Slam quarterfinal, yet the hunger and drive she displayed suggested someone still chasing unfinished business rather than coasting on past achievements. Watching from the stands was her husband, Gael Monfils, himself no stranger to the emotional roller coaster of elite tennis. The support seemed to energize Svitolina, who has spoken openly about how much perspective her life has gained since becoming a mother. Returning to the tour after maternity leave was never going to be easy, but matches like this underline just how remarkable her comeback has been. The win also extended her impressive run of form. Coming into the Australian Open, she had already claimed a title in Auckland, building momentum and confidence with each match. That winning streak now stands at double figures, and her performances in Melbourne suggest a player peaking at exactly the right moment. Reaching the semi-finals ensures her return to the top 10, a personal goal she has repeatedly described as a dream since her comeback. For Svitolina, this achievement goes beyond rankings and statistics. It represents resilience, patience, and belief in a sport that rarely offers guarantees. Awaiting her in the next round is world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka, a formidable opponent known for her explosive power and fearless aggression. Sabalenka's own quarterfinal was a ruthless affair, as she swept past teenage prospect Iva Jovic with ease. On paper, it presents a daunting challenge, but Svitolina's performance against Gauff suggests she is more than ready for the test. The upcoming clash promises a fascinating contrast. Sabalenka's raw force against Svitolina's defensive brilliance and tactical intelligence. It will be a battle of styles, nerves, and endurance, with a place in the final on the line. Few would have predicted this matchup at the start of the tournament, yet it now stands as one of the most intriguing semifinals in recent Australian Open history. For Coco Gauff, the loss will sting. Expectations were high, and the manner of defeat will raise questions, particularly about her serve, which betrayed her throughout the tournament. Winning just a fraction of first serve points and committing a large number of unforced errors made it impossible to mount any sustained challenge against a player as disciplined as Svitolina. Still, Gauff remains one of the brightest stars in the game. At her age, setbacks like this, while painful, often become the foundation for future growth. She has the talent, athleticism, and competitive fire to bounce back stronger, and Melbourne may yet prove to be a valuable chapter in her development rather than a defining failure. As the Australian Open edges closer to its conclusion, Svitolina's run has become one of the tournament's most compelling narratives. From a determined comeback after maternity leave to a dominant semi-final appearance achieved in breathtaking fashion, her journey has captured the imagination of fans worldwide. Whether she can go one step further and finally lift a Grand Slam trophy remains an open question. What is no longer in doubt is her place among the elite once again. On a night when the USA was left stunned and expectations were shattered, Elina Svitolina reminded everyone that experience, belief, and relentless focus can still rule the biggest stages in tennis. Stay with us, because if this tournament has taught us anything, it's that the story is far from over.